Alright everyone, now we need to talk about eating dog meat, specifically in the context of South Korea. They have just banned the practice. Foods that contain the flesh of the canine are no longer allowed in South Korea for sale. There's a problem here, and that's that you've got a cultural usage of dog meat within South Korea. It's not considered, among the youth I think it's less common, and sort of the demographic shift is why the issue is pressed. But among certain demographics within South Korea, the consumption of dog meat is considered to be perfectly fine. I don't know how it tastes because I've never had it. Maybe it's really tasty. Maybe it tastes like goddamn shit. It's sort of like eating horses. You can do that in Europe, and you can't do it in the United States. Why? Because you're not supposed to do that. It's illegal. You cannot eat horse meat in the United States. In fact, I don't even think you can butcher and eat your own horses, even if they're like, they have to be put down or something. I don't think you can even eat the meat then. Not that the average person would want to. Apparently it's like beef, but more tough, because horses are really muscular. They're not raised all fatty and marbled and shit like that, so sort of like a survival food thing. Here's why this ban won't work. A free market suppressed becomes a black market. Now, this is not about the morality of eating man's best friend. This is not, it's sort of like eating cats or any other cute animal. And I noticed that there is an overlap between animals being either helpful or cute and being legally protected from being eaten. The former making sense, the latter being kind of an arbitrary thing. It's not about the morality. It's just the fact that there's a demand. If there's a demand for dog meat, then it will be supplied. It'll simply drive the cost up and get organized crime involved. We've seen this with the drug war. We've seen this with the war on guns. We've seen this effectively if there's a demand for something among a populace, and that demand is suppressed legally, you will simply have a black market spring up. It's nothing more than the free market that's been turned black by virtue of the law. People will still eat dog meat. They will still process dog meat. What you're going to end up with is a sort of off-the-tables factories that are canning dog meat, I guess, more than anything else. It'll just be more costly because, of course, more cost is incurred when you have to make sure that you're being secretive and you don't want anyone to know that you're slaughtering dogs or something like that, and you have to go underground. You have to make sure to, number one, you may bribe officials, and some of those officials will have no problem with it. They'll say, oh, I like dog meat too. I don't agree with this law. You can continue your underground dog meat canning operation, but I want a cut. I want free dog meat for life, basically. There will be instances like that over the coming years, I assure you. They'll try to stamp it out, and they'll probably reduce the amount of dog meat that's eaten, but it will still be eaten. What they should be doing is like an educational campaign. It's the top 5 reasons why you shouldn't eat dog meat, people in the Western world that come here for tourism and stuff, they think that it's gross. Many of them do. Dogs are helpful. Here's a short rundown of the history of how dogs kept the cave safe, 10,000 years ago, and shit like that. It's sort of like with anything else. With drugs. Educate people on the risks associated with drug use. Hey, if you use this substance, you may die. If you use that substance, you'll probably end up hooked on it, and then you'll die. Trying to ban it hasn't worked. Banning things, generally speaking, doesn't work. As long as it's something for which there would be a natural demand, bans typically don't work. Education can reduce the usage, although there's no particular reason why eating dog, in my opinion, is any morally bereft than eating any other meat of an advanced species. Cows are reasonably intelligent. Horses are reasonably intelligent. People eat monkey meat, they're intelligent. People still poach elephants and eat, I think, their meat as well. Mostly they just saw the tusks off for some reason. It's like, hey, you know how much all the other bones in that corpse are worth? Yeah, it's probably $100,000 worth in every elephant. But for some reason they just take the tusks and then they go. I'm assuming that it's kind of tasty, Anyway, moral argument, I would say, is more like, if you're going to protect one species and not others of a comparable intellectual capability, so they can feel pain, they have awareness like a cat or something like that, or most agricultural livestock, goats and things like that. It's kind of hypocritical to not just become a vegetarian now, isn't it? It's kind of hypocritical. We may in the West generally think of dog as pet, not food, but that's not the way it's typically been seen in North Korea. Likewise, it'd be like we eat a lot of beef in the United States. If you go to India, you're not going to find much beef consumption because their cow is deity or spiritual animal. Here it's like it's a fucking cow. It's hamburgers. Yeah, I just don't understand exactly why you would think that this particular ban is going to work so supremely well as opposed to banning anything else under the sun. You have nations, for example, like I think Singapore, if I remember correctly, in which having a little bit of weed carries a death sentence. And yet people still do drugs there. They still traffic it in at great risk to themselves. If outright killing people for a practice is not going to stop the practice from happening, then unless that practice specifically violates the NAP or is really, really egregious, like a rape or murder or something like that, then there shouldn't be any enforced law at all. It shouldn't exist. You can dissuade people with fines, although I don't particularly agree with that either. I don't fully comprehend how you can, on an objective scale, say eating the dog is evil and gross and wrong, but eating the cow is perfectly fine. I find it to be very, very hypocritical, and I think that this particularly will create a black market. It will not actually solve any problems. There are other nations in Asia where dogs will continue to be raised and butchered and consumed. They will be imported, they'll be smuggled in. People in Korea, I mean, are you going to spy on anyone who owns a dog? Make sure they're not breeding them for sale on the meat market? That's going to be a little bit onerous now, won't it? Especially when the demand is still reasonably high. As time moves on, maybe the younger generation is eating less dog meat and finds it weird, or they've been westernized to an extent in that thinking. But they're still eating cows. They're still eating pigs. Pigs are reasonably intelligent and helpful, by the way. Look at the truffle pigs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know, most people, like, I wouldn't eat a cat. I find cats to be furry purry, and I think that they're adorable, and they roll around, do little cute things with their paws, and I consider them pets as opposed to food. Unless I was starving, of course. But is there an objective basis to that, or is that just my fifis? Ultimately, it's literally nothing more than my fifis. I can say, well, the cat is more intelligent than a lot of other animals. They can learn tricks. They're very helpful. Okay, cows can be helpful too. Grazing, keeping the field nice and mushy with their poo-poo and stuff like that, and they're cute, and they make mooey noises, and they're intelligent too. Maybe not as intelligent as a cat, but, you know, reasonably intelligent. But nobody has a problem with eating them, again, outside of the Hindu majority. It's ultimately, at the end of the day, it's unhelpful, it's hypocritical, and it can't work. That's the whole problem. The main problem is just it's not pragmatic at all. That's about all. Peace out.